hangar, he has to pay the liability insurance, he has to pay, like all of us, insurances. What would happen if a third of his business went away? He gets a lot of his business from the field.
Well, of course he does.
I mean, what would happen at an airport if we lost our maintenance guy? He's been there his whole life.
Yeah, he will continue to.
So,
I use them a
yeah,
lot.
I understand.
I use them a lot.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't even want to get into this, but experimental amateur built, you know, I don't need to be an A&P to work on my
Right.
airplane.
I owned a Lancer 4P.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
You know where I'm going with that. I'd like to read out of the Federal Register the official FAA policy on the use of aircraft hangars. Does not apply legally to us because we're not a federally funded airport. But it's the product of the FAA and AOPA and, you know, all the aeronautical groups. And it says, as of June 15th, 2016, hangars must be used for an aeronautical purpose. There are some caveats if you can't rent the hangars. That's not an issue. Otherwise, they're intended for aeronautical purpose, and they should be used for storage, final assembly of aircraft, non-commercial construction of amateur-built aircraft, maintenance, repair, or refurbishment of airplanes. I mean, the FAA recognizes the hangars are supposed to be used to maintain airplanes. I mean, that's kind of what they're there for.
Yeah.
You know, and then to pretend that we don't do maintenance in the hangars is just silly.
And if, just hypothetically, if the plane shifted off of the jack while it's in the air and it fell on someone,
Yeah.
who's going to pay for that? I know I have insurance for it, but I don't really want to pay for it. And I'm not against you. I'm trying to think
If
of,
an airplane falls on me, my wife's got a big problem. You know, she's
Well-
going to have to get that airplane off of me, and there's nobody to sue. Who's she going to sue? Me?
well, no, she would sue me.
No, she would not.
Well, your wife wouldn't, but
Why would anybody? Well,
I don't know. Anyway,
I don't think
We're not
the
gonna, we're not gonna
I don't
agree
think
to
the city
that.
has liability.
I'm with you.
Suggestion.
On a good note,
Yeah.
about 95+% of all the people that had problems cleaned them all up this last week. So huge, everybody was up in arms, and
Well,
then
the
they
fire
came down to
inspector
earth,
got,
and
that was
everybody
good.
cleaned up their problem. I mean, almost everybody. So Mike was incredibly pleasantly surprised, and so was the fire inspector.
Yeah,
So
so
that's
that's
good news.
Yeah.
And I am going on the record, I'll go either way.
Yeah.
The city wants whichever way,
Yeah.
I'm good.
Along with that, if I could add one more, in paragraph 4, just to throw it out into the record, it talks about inoperative aircraft in 90 days. You know, if somebody had to pull an engine and set it off for overhaul, that can take months. 90 days is
You know,
ridiculously
and
short.
along with this, one thing that this lease lacks is a rules and regulation procedure document to accompany it. So there'd be
To
something,
implement some of
there'd be
these
something
things,
that
yeah.
would say, okay, 90 days unless
Approval.
a hardship and it's approved by the
Talk to
airport
somebody
manager
about it.
or operator.
Yeah.
Just like we do at the marina, it's the exact same thing. So I want to develop some sort of this rules and regulation to accompany this that really goes more into depth, because the lease needs to be simple, but also have reference. What does that really
I
mean?
think that's a good point.
Then we had one more person who wanted to speak.
Kelly O'Donnell. I'm going to speak to that point, but I have a couple of other points also. I regularly deal with contracts and rules and regulations in my everyday job, so I did my homework and I was able to understand what both the leases were talking about. And I do think it's kind of crazy, like you said, Brock, to not be allowed to do work, even if it's taking out a radio in your hangar. And I did see that Albert Whitted did allow that. And to your point, Dave King, they also said that if you're operating as a business out of your hangar, you'd be required to have some sort of business insurance, including workman's comp. And what I think they had the $1 million policy for that, just to cover the instances that you were bringing up. They also said, like you were just mentioning, the 90 days, not very much time. So Albert Wood had said that it was 180 days for any aircraft undergoing major overhaul or repair. And then the same thing, like you just mentioned, that could be revisited, I guess, if it was taking longer than that amount of time. And
Reasonable person there, you know. That's-
yeah, so back to the point of business, I'm not quite sure if you're allowed to operate a business out of the Airpark, because it doesn't quite state that in the lease anywhere, although I've heard people do operate businesses out of their hangars, so I don't really know. I think that's one of those wink-wink areas you were talking about. Brock. So
Yeah.
I think if you are allowed to now, or if you are allowed to in the future, that should be clarified in the lease, if you're able to or not. I also saw that Albert Whitted allowed a double occupancy of their hangar. I don't think that the Airpark does that right now. I'm not sure if that would be something that they would want to revisit in the future. I'm not sure all the legalities of what that means.
I think that should be one of those subject to airport approval. Because there are, I know of a couple hangars that are,
And then,
possibly, yeah.
I also saw that Albert Whitted allows aircraft constructions for those who are looking at RVs or other different aircraft that they're wanting to home build themselves. And again, I think they cover themselves by requiring even the individual person to have some sort of insurance to be able to cover any kind of accident. But they also have the clause in their lease that says that you can't hold the airport liable for anything that happens, to just try to cover themselves. And that's not to say that someone won't try to sue you anyway, because people are sue happy, but that at least is written in there to try to cover that
That's a good
instance.
point.
And, I'll just make one quick comment on that, Kelly, if I can interrupt you for a moment. And that makes sense to me. It's the first flight type scenario that we're most worried about, and Albert Whitted, that can be over water. Some of these other airports can be over pasture. We're immediately over neighborhoods here, so Clearwater is very protective of those neighborhoods. So that's why we're a little more restrictive in that arena.
And if you don't want to allow, I guess, construction of aircraft, then I think you would just need to make sure that that's clarified, especially if you change number 4 to say, where it's not requiring only an airworthy aircraft. And if you do allow some sort of maintenance, you'll have to specify then that building of aircraft is not allowed, just to make sure you would
The
cover.
operating rules actually address
Okay,
first flight and phase 1 of
okay, I didn't
amateur-built airplanes.
see
Yeah.
those at all.
Yeah.
And so my other thing was, if you stay with a month-to-month lease, in number 6, it says that there's only a 15-day written notice that the rental amount could be adjusted. I don't think that that is fair. I mean, if you look at any regular lease, even if you're on a month-to-month, they still give you 30 days notice. So I think whatever you decide to move forward with in your lease, that should be the amount of time possibly that you give someone notice for. So if you do move to the 5 years, not to say you need to give them 5-year notice, but I definitely think it should be at least 30 days. And lastly, number 17 says no shop equipment. You don't have definitions in your lease, and that to me is too vague, especially if you're saying that you are allowed to polish and clean your aircraft and complete the regular maintenance allowed under FAA by the owner and pilot. So are you allowed to have a toolbox in there to do that kind of stuff? Or are you allowed to have some sort of, table in there that holds your cleaning stuff? I don't know, because that's not clear in here. But to me, I would think that you would still be allowed to store some sort of toolbox and, I don't know, some Rubbermaid container that would hold your cleaning material, but that is not clear enough in here because I don't know what the definition of shop equipment is. And I did see in the Albert Whitted one that they had a section for definitions to make sure that these kind of unclear items were clarified for the general person.
No, thank you, Kelly, for that. Those are some of the things we're looking at too, because it's not clear. That's these gray areas. What is shop equipment? What is this? There's nothing to rely on, so we're going to clean that up too.
Awesome,
That was
thank
all I
you.
had.
Thank you.
I just have one more item,
Welcome.
and I'm still David King. While we're going to address all this, Barb and I have made a list of the common things that we have problems with, of people doing that, as she pointed out, are just not spelled out in the lease, so we can provide you with a copy
Awesome.
of that list that we
That's
see. Everybody, we go to them and they're doing whatever, and we're like, you can't do that, and they say, well, whatever, and we get into a big discussion about it. But the other problem that we have is we have a waiting list. I mean, since long before, well, maybe not you, because since you've been here, which has been a long time, and I've known you for 20 years, we've always had a waiting list at the airport.
Yeah.
If we're going to redo the list, we ought to do something that encourages, or not mandatory, but probably over half the people in the hangars don't even go in the air for a year at a time. They don't fly. And they're keeping Bob and John and Bill from getting a hangar because they just sit there. So the whole airworthy thing is good.
Yeah.
But you know, there should be some requirement to go in the sky. I mean, it's an airport, you know?
I like it.
And I don't really know how we do that, but I mean, there's a lot of people, I mean, we have people that call Ed and say, I've been on that waiting list for 7 years. It's because we have people that are there, like, well, I won't mention any name, we have a specific individual that, A, doesn't have an airplane in there and hasn't flown, and we just discovered some of these things, so we're dealing with it now, you know, but that would be something to think about.
I think that's an excellent
Yeah,
comment.
I think
And I hadn't really thought
addressing-
about
yeah.
it. Kind of addressed in the Federal Register thing,
Well, I-
aeronautical purposes.
I
If it
think
doesn't
that
fly,
that
there's
was-
no aeronautical
I
purpose.
mean, I wasn't around, that lease was old when I got there 20 years ago. But I think that's what they meant about the airworthiness and, you know, all that, and 90 days to have an engine and whatever, because they were trying to encourage people to either fly or vacate. It's
Yeah.
not a storage facility,
Yeah.
you know?
And it might have been left gray and vague like that because the people that created the lease knew the spirit and intent of that lease, which we don't know what that is anymore.
Right.
That's
So,
a good point.
yeah.
I like that.
Okay.
Yeah, that all
Yes.
goes to what you were talking about,
Right.
having current medicals and.
Yeah.
License, and what about being
Right.
current in the
And
airport?
Yeah.
How many takeoffs and landings, and you know,
Yeah,
all that
yeah.
stuff. is-
Yeah. Well,
It's part of
and people that don't fly don't buy fuel.
Yep.
They don't get airplanes repaired at Jeff's. They don't get repaired by
Well,
anybody.
they don't promote the general
Aviation.
spirit of the airport.
That's correct.
Which is for people to come, in your case, build planes and share that knowledge with youth and take them up and all that. They just come and they park and they sit in their hangar, in their office, I guess, or whatever, anyway. So, the things that I like all the ideas everybody's talking about, you know, Paul talking about, you know, and yourself, keeping track of their, you know, their annuals, their medicals, their insurance. I'm just not sure how we could keep up with all that.
Right.
It's like pulling teeth to get information out of them as it is.
Absolutely.
But I mean, I think it's a phenomenal idea to make sure that if they're going to be there, they're going to be legal. You know what I mean?
I have
Because
no
people do fly without medicals. And the first thing that's going to happen if something happens, they're going to say, Dave, why didn't you stop that? Well, as of now, I don't really have an
it's
authority
not your-
to ask them for their
Right.
medical. Or do you have insurance? I don't have that right to ask them that either. I mean,
That I think you should have.
well, I think we should have a right, it's the city's airport and the city's liable ultimately, after they get through with me. And it's good business, I think.
Yeah.
Let's make everything safer by making sure the pilot has an airworthy aircraft, it's worked on by a reputable mechanic, he has a license to go in the sky, he has the appropriate ratings for the airplane or helicopter he's flying.
Yep.
I mean, I think that's good business.
Yeah.
So,
I think, is it paragraph 23, it says, failure to abide by performance specifications of the pilot's operating handbook is a reason for terminating. Like, who has a copy of that? Is that something that, but my point is not, that's in there, but yet the things that you're talking about, insurance, current medical.
it's just
that's
never,
more
it's just never been in there before. But if we're gonna make a change, I'm just bringing up all the things I think we should try to change. And let's do it one time, let's do it together, and let's fix it,
Yep,
you know, and make it so the airport can move on for another 20 years.
I
I
agree.
just want to add one thing. When a new tenant comes to the airport, we do get a copy of their pilot certificate, their medical, their annual. And the only thing that we used to require was a copy of the section of the POH that said how much fuel it held, just because as a point of reference, if the plane should go down, because years ago, I guess they said, you know, hundreds of gallons of fuel spilled and the plane held 40 gallons, you know.
Yeah.
So-
Right, right.
So those are the items we get now at inception of the lease. But then how do you, we have tried in the past to send letters out for people to give us annuals, they just don't do it, you know, and
Well,
So
it's
we
a,
And the reason they don't
well,
is
it's a
because
condition, if
It's
you
not
do an
conditional on
annual,
lease.
if you do an annual renewal, their insurance is usually for a year, all these
Right.
things are yearly. So we make, at the
We can make it
marina,
around
they,
that.
and before their lease is renewed, they have to bring their insurance, they have to bring their Coast Guard certification, same thing,
Maybe
just
we
on
should
the other
implement
side,
that.
so,
Yeah.
and then and then we have that file there, because we audit the files, so every year, and not everybody expires on the same date, so it's not a big problem, you know?
Right.
So that's another recommendation that we would do too.
No, that makes
Because
sense.
we need to, you know, when you look at the city, see, we contract the airport out to the FBO. We're the landlord, so the only time we have a problem, we need to make sure that they're following our lease, and our lease needs updating. So
Yes.
that's why we need you and the FBO to help us that. But when there's a problem at the Airpark, it always comes to the city. And the city is, just like these inspections, these hangars are all city property. So everything done on city property, it's a little different than if it were private property. We have different liabilities, we have different interests, because it's the citizens of Clearwater ultimately that own that Airpark. So that's where we're really trying to benefit the park for all the users and have people that fly, able to fly, people that live in Clearwater that have their planes in Tampa because they're on a 10-year waiting list to get them to Clearwater. So there's a lot of things that the citizens of Clearwater would like to see, not necessarily change, but get better by changing.
And keep in mind that in the almost 20 years that I've been here, even though all these people have month-to-month leases, there's only 2 people in 20 years that have ever been asked to leave, even though they have month-to-month. That's what, 99 point some kind of high number percentage of retention. And the other thing is, the only time the rates have ever gone up is annually for the CPI index. We have not had a rate increase on these hangars, to my knowledge, in the 20 years I've been there, except CPI, which is once a year. We get that notice from the city, and then we pass it on to the tenants, and that's the only rate increases that we've had.
And we need to, and that is a way to do it, but you also have to look at demand. And we do rate studies, so we need to be in market, make sure that these hangars are paying market rate, especially when we're building new ones.
Right.
It costs a lot of money. The rate of return on these hangars it's not immediate. It takes 20 years to get that money back. So we want to look at things like that, rate increases, how often we look at a market study. And we just did one recently, and we're not that far off. In fact, we're in line for the style and type of hangars and airport that we are. So that was good to see. You want to see that. But we have a good problem because we're completely full. So another thing would love for you guys to talk about and look at is access to your hangars after hours. We're addressing after hours access, the need for it. When the Airpark closes, do you need to be there at 2 o'clock in the morning? Do you need to come and go at 2 o'clock in the morning
That's a good point.
with others in your car with a swipe thing? So that's part of the security upgrade that we're doing. We have the security at night that drives the perimeter, watches the camera, sits in the FBO. Well, we're going to install a guard shack, if you will. So at night, when anybody comes in, Bruce comes in, Bruce has got to show his ID, he'll know you maybe. Bruce has 2 passengers. See, right now, we don't know how many people come on the Airpark at night, or if people are trading cards. You could give your card to your friend to go pick something up, drop it off. So include that in your discussion on the need for after-hours access. How important is that to somebody that leases a hangar?
The only time I've ever been there before 7 is if I'm flying somewhere and I want to take off at 7.
Yeah.
I may
Right.
get there at 6:15 in pre-flight and blah, 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 and go to the bathroom, that sort of stuff, and be ready to go. I don't work on an airplane at 3 o'clock in the morning.
And then
I'm
reverting
sure
back to
somebody
city
does.
property, we have other leases
Yeah.
in the city, and we don't allow 24-hour access into city buildings
Yeah.
Right.
that I can think of anywhere. So, when it closes, the Marina building, we lock it. When the library closes, it locks. The librarians aren't in here,
Right.
straightening books up at 2 o'clock in the morning. So that's what
I'll spread that around in my groups.
yeah.
It makes
I honestly don't know why you would need there to be more than an hour past the last landing time
And if you did,
and
you would
more than
sign
an
in
hour
with the
before you
guard.
depart, at
Yeah.
7.
Or
you know.
pre-notification
Like
to.
midnight to 6,
Yeah.
I don't know why anybody would need to be.
Yeah, if you left your cell phone in your plane and you went at midnight, the guard would let you in and sign you out at 12:15. There's a lot of reasons you might go back, but it needs to be tracked. And I use the Marina as an example because it's similar but different. Our security guard notes on the boats, if there's somebody on the boat, we don't knock on the door and say, who's in here? But, okay, this slip, lights were on, voices were heard. So we know that there are people in these slips, and then the next morning, if there were a problem, we'll say, well, hey, somebody was on that boat last
Yeah.
night. And the owner said, wasn't me. There's just things like that we need to be more diligent of. And we take what we know from working at the marinas, and I'm trying to use those useful tips and tools for you guys in the hangars and the airport. Because we've made a lot of nice changes on the marina side that I think you can correlate to the
Right,
airpark side.
right. And honestly, not having been a tenant in all these years, I've been on the field since early 90s, I never realized that the lease was structured that way. And I've been on the board a long time too. It's never been discussed
Yeah.
that I'm aware of. So I think it's due. I mean, I really think we do
very
need
much
to address
so.
this.
And we need your
So-
input because you guys are the pilots. You guys are the ones that are doing it. And I'm just gonna be the one that's gonna take all of these good things and try to put them together and see what we can come up with. So this will be a product that we work on for a couple more meetings.
Right.
And then we get the city to look at it, legal, city manager, who is over the air park that can make these
Right.
decisions for us and make these changes and put it into place.
Okay. And then you had any comments?
Just a couple of things to those points. I do think that what you're saying, like not needing to be there at 2 a.m. is right, but like you said, Bruce, if someone comes in at 11 or wants to leave at 7, then there needs to be like maybe that hour
Yeah.
leeway in
No.
there.
Oh, absolutely.
Clean up, but then once they have the security guard, that can cover if someone's there a little bit later too. And as far as hangar price, I would again, like I mentioned at the last meeting, remember to us younger pilots that don't have as much money and don't increase hangar prices just because of demand. That's why I still can't find a house to buy it, because the demand is up so high that housing costs are, I mean, they're almost 100,000 more than what the house is actually worth because demand is so high right now. And to Dave King's point about airworthiness, Albert Wooded one also talked about that, and it said that the aircraft that's stored on the premises must be airworthy, and that would be outside of that maintenance time. And if it's not airworthy, then the lease would be terminated if the tenant doesn't have any plans to ever make it airworthy. But they have to have an aircraft in their hangar. They can't just be holding onto the hangar and not have
And
aircraft.
back to what Dave said, we have never evicted anybody for that over the years, and it's hard to do that to somebody. These are some of these older
Like
folks that
Alan
have been here for a long time, families, planes handed down, so it's not as easy as it sounds. But if there's support to run the operation like that, then you know that's just the way you move in
Well,
that
and I'm not
direction.
saying kick them out if they have an airplane that's airworthy in there, because even if they may not fly, there may
Right.
be other people that are flying that aircraft. But I do agree that they have to have an airplane in there, and that outside of maintenance and things like major overhaul, which could take 6 months, that it would have to be airworthy in those times. Thank you.
I mean, you might even consider, I mean, there are a couple, like when Mr. Arnold was alive, I mean, he didn't fly anymore, but he
Yeah, it'd be
was,
hard to kick him out.
it would have been very difficult to do that. I mean, there may be some grandfathering we have to think about. There's a rear one there that,
Yeah,
we might need to think about too.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
there's some things that,
Battery cars, too.
there might be a few of the older tenants.
But when you do that, then you just open it up to.
I know
he
you
can do it,
do.
Why can't
I know you
do
do.
it? And that's the
But-
problem we've had all these years.
Yeah.
But,
And you just can't get around that.
yeah. So,
And, something
Yeah.
else I wanted to bring up too, when we talked about, where it says solely for the parking of the tenant's aircraft, and what Bruce said, you have to have certain things for your airplane. We need to really put something in there firm about your hangar not being a storage unit, because that's what we discovered with a lot of these inspections. I mean, people were using them, there were at least 2 people that were hoarders there, that had stuff from the ceiling to the floor, wall to wall. And that's all being cleaned up now, but it needs to be spelled out.
yeah, I know I've seen
It has
some
to be
leases, they even
aviation-related
quantify how much
products.
oil you can have in there and how much, all that, so, for fire reasons too, so.
I mean, we have people with John boats, classic cars, motorcycles, jet skis. Everybody has a lawnmower. I mean, it's just, we're a storage unit, and that just happens over the years because your garage is full, so you bring it over to the airpark.
Right, yeah. Oh, I got the hanger, I'll put it under the wing.
And all the stuff that's stored there, we put a 20-yard, 40-yard roll-off in, and believe it or not, it's filled. So this is people don't even want this stuff anymore.
We're on the 3rd batch,
So if you can throw it into a roll-off, why are you keeping it for all these years?
Right.
That, wow,
Say goodbye.
absolutely. Or go down to
Yeah.
Uncle Bob's.
I have one more quick point, just to say to that, I don't think that they should be a storage, Kelly O'Donnell still. But we have a lot of transient people that, snowbirds that come down here and they may not have a house. They may just go to a hotel or maybe a condo or something. So I'm not opposed to the idea that if there's room, that within reason, they might have a motorcycle stored in there or a car in there, because when they do come down here and they stay for their amount of time, they usually need some other sort of transport.
Well, that's
However,
why-
there's plenty of storage, public storage units that they can rent and store that kind of stuff.
You know, we
down.
want to make
Put a car
the
in there?
leasing,
I don't really know how that
It
works.
costs $250 a month to store a car somewhere. That's a
Yeah.
lot of money, it is, and
But-
at the FA, at the Federal Registry again, which, can I submit this to the record? I'll give you this copy, Ms. Sullivan. It provided the aircraft is used primarily for aeronautical purposes, airport sponsor may permit, again, this is not regulatory on us, may permit non-aeronautical items to be stored, provided they don't interfere with the aeronautical use of the hangar. While sponsors may adopt more restrictive, then it goes on, it goes through a whole bunch of stuff, but I'll let you read all that. But it also says,
but like what Kelly
There's
said.
a limit.
If you wanted to come there seasonally and rent a hangar, we may have seasonal rentals, but right now there's no rentals, everything's
Right.
month to month. And of course, if you were living in an apartment and had your plane there, you flew or rode a motorcycle, yeah, of
Right.
course, those are the kind of things that the operator would evaluate.
Right.
It is pure storage, where you don't even know what you have.
You're
That's
not-
the
you're
kind
not
we
coming
we
in
know
till
that
5.
some of the hangars
Yeah.
were a little out of control.
Yes.
Yeah.
Silly.
Yes.
You're not showing up at 2:00 and filling the hangar up and
Yeah,
nobody's
no,
watching.
we know the ones you're talking about.
And then again, with the, a lot of the things with the businesses and the hangars, you have to have a business tax receipt to work in Clearwater. Everybody realizes that.
Yep.
And it's the zoning there. People, will want to do whatever they want to do, but it may not be allowed with the zoning that's there,
Yeah.
for offices and businesses that we just really have to be careful. And that's the city, that we're looking at, the city's obligations.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I thought we had done away with a lot of that.
Oh, yeah, we have. I mean,
Yeah.
we are really making great strides in cleaning things up, and I applaud everybody for that, because at first it wasn't easy, but I think people realized it was long overdue.
Yeah. Do you still want to speak?
Unfortunately. I want to, but I will.
No,
need to
this
get
is
Kelly
all
a
good,
hanger.
though.
We're talking about, we almost every day have people coming in wanting to operate businesses in the hangars.
Really?
Flight instruction, maintenance, fixing parts, all kinds of, if you could think of it, they come up with it. But my concern again would be my lease says that we have to maintain a flight school. If we start letting people come in and operate flight training businesses out of their hangar, we may lose our flight school again. And we've lost 3 flight schools since I've been here in 20 years. I had to own one myself when Justin went out of business, on a Thursday, and we opened another one on a Friday. But it's not that I'm opposed to having these people do this. I'm just opposed to what the repercussions that it may have on the other businesses on the field. I don't want to lose them.
Yeah, personally, I don't think we should have businesses operating out of the hangars.
No,
It's not the intention.
we know the training that goes behind a professional flight school where people and their instructors are held to a standard up here.
And the liability and all of it.
Johnny Bob Smith comes in and he's going to train somebody. He opens his trunk and pulls out his stuff and, he's going to train somebody in his airplane. Well, that scares me. It only scares me because of a couple things. I don't know anything about Johnny Bob, and I don't know how close to the standards that he's following. Is he going over the edge, or is he very safe? He could be either. The point is we can't keep up with what they are. And if something happens, he's going to call me.
And, and again, when you realize with some of those things that it's what the council has wanted, it's not me, none of these
Right.
things are what I want.
Right.
Over the years, with the neighborhoods over there, they don't want all these helicopters and flight schools and
Right.
seaplanes, and everybody that wants to get into the Airpark, it would just be like nonstop. So the city, we own this facility, we're gonna control it, and we want it to run the way the city wants it to run. We can't say Albert Whitted has a different scenario. They take off over the
Right.
water.
And it's
Zephyr Hills
FAA,
takes off
yep.
over cow pastures, So some things work differently in different areas. So But, from councils change, mayors change, but they're the ones that make the big changes for the way the Airpark, whether we want to change the hours of operation, if we allow businesses in the hangars. These are all things that we can't control. Dave can't control them.
That's right.
He can request them, we can recommend them, but we ultimately have to get the city manager, legal, and the council to approve them. So be thinking of that with, some of your, suggestions.
Have you now set up a more regular inspection of hangars?
Yes, we have, we always have inspections, but
Yeah,
the hangars, the type of inspection they would do for the Airpark was more of the open facility areas. These closed hangars hadn't been inspected like this in a long time. So Mike, now, every year, we'll pick a date or a series, how we do that, but yes. But for the most part, most of them were really easy. The fire inspections
Yeah.
are smoke alarms, lighted
Right.
exit signs, extension
Right.
cords,
Right.
certain things, storage, everybody, we don't want everybody storing, having a used oil can, 55-gallon drum. That's,
Right.
the Airpark can provide a place for that, and we can get rid of it there. And people storing gas cans
Okay.
and all these flammables that are not in fire-rated boxes,
Yeah.
And, those hangars, everybody's next door. You don't know what's going on in this thin
Right.
wall on the other side,
so that is now something that you're.
Yes.
Okay,
And it became hobbies. People brought their hobbies to the Airpark. And some of them have been problematic, and, we
especially
need
when the
to.
spouse says get it out. the
That's
front.
the after-hour portion I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Well, and a good example, the paint spray thing, there's one that, boy, does that have an impact on your neighbor?
Yes, it
You know,
does.
it has
Yes.
happened in the past, I don't know that
Yeah.
it's happened lately, but, that's a horror story. where
Overspray is
you-
terrible,
you-
yeah.
You
Seen
walk
it.
into your plane and it's got an overspray of your neighbor's
Yeah.
paint, that's
Yeah.
not a good thing.
When we
Seen it,
had
it's not
the
pretty.
water, people were, we have water spigots outside for whatever you might need it for, and water came inside. Everybody was installing sinks, and we had a shower temp that we stopped and told them they couldn't do that because we don't have the sanitary for it.
no,
So you can't have, you can wash your plane or your car with a hose, but once you bring a laundry tub in there, see, it just opens a lot of
You mean
different.
I can't open a commercial laundry in my
No.
Really?
Well, the drain is the
Give
problem.
him an
It's
inch.
draining out onto the taxiway
Yeah.
or into the grass, and that's not.
It's not a proper install, so.
Quick again, but I think it's a good idea, because Mike and I had to endure the walkthroughs of all the hangars, which, by the way, there's quite a few. Number one, if we do it again, we're gonna do it in the wintertime. And number two, what I think would be better is, rather than having a time, a date, or doing them all because of the burden on the fire department and the code people, we just put all the names in a hat, and we just have random, we draw 5 names out every so many months, and just have a walkthrough. And that'll keep people on their toes, but we don't have to go through a 2-day intense 8 hours in the sun, checking through everybody's hangar and making everybody upset. So I think it might be easier just to do random, as an idea. Just an
and then
idea.
all of them to be handled within that year period.
Right.
Yeah, that takes, maybe. Unless the fire department and the rest can't do that so many days a year.
Well, these are annual inspections from the fire department.
Yeah, awesome.
It'd really be up to them.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and that's really the inspection you have is the fire inspection. The building department inspection we did this time was really unique because normally you wouldn't have that problem. If there's any modifications or improvements, those are already permitted and inspected. But we had some instances where things were built without permits and they needed inspections. So that's where that level of inspection came in. So I don't see that happening every year. That was just something that we're going to get over. But it's really the fire, life safety type issues there that we're inspecting annually. But a building department inspection, they would come when you added something, just
Okay, got
as
it.
they would at your house.
Okay.
Nobody gets a building
So if
inspection.
you're building shelves or a cabinet?
Yes.
Something like that.
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so director's report. So yes, if there's any other questions, but I mean, it's a good, very good discussion today. I'm glad that everybody's thinking about it, and I know that you know, a lot of things will come together. Some might not work, but I'm sure a lot of them are going to work out for us.
Is there anybody else we need to include in that, in this discussion, or that you can think of?
Well, what we're going to do is try to, you know, take our lease and, you know, get a Word document, add, subtract, strike, and then come up with something that's a final version, final draft. And then we let our legal department look at it to see that this is something we can do. And then I'll prepare something for the city manager to look at and ultimately, you know, council.
Okay.
Because they have to be approved. These leases have to be approved above our level.
Okay, and are you gonna try and have all this done by the next meeting, or are you gonna have it done?
Probably,
discussion
but,
then, and
yeah.
then carry on into the
We
next year?
just want to be working on it, because it won't be done by the next meeting. So if you bring us some things by the next meeting, maybe we can start getting that first draft.
Right.
And then another meeting, and another draft.
Okay.
And as the master plan finally comes approved, final, there's always tweaking. And this thing can be a living document. There's nothing that says
Right.
what we produce is going to last for 20 years. And that's where our rules and regulations come in, our policies, you know, because we can make policies that decisions are made based on the lease. Okay, that's something we can live with, yes.
Right. Things are changing, I mean, just societally and technology, and it's just to
Absolutely.
include, I mean, all right, it's very good. Is everybody good with thinking about all that stuff?
Okay?
All righty, and do you have anything else? I'm gonna skip over old business, well, I'll just do old business real quick. Do we have
I've
any
got
old
one
business?
question on that.
Old business?
Hangar C. What's its status?
Hangar C, we've secured the funding from FDOT. We've also got approval from the council to get the grant. Right now, it is, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take Hangar D and flip that around to where the bathrooms are gonna be on the west end for Hangar C. So it's in engineering being drawn, and once we get that drawing, then we'll go to the council for approval to build.
Yeah, what we'll have to do is we have to we're going to go construction manager at risk, which we will take our plan, the Hangar C plan, and get a guaranteed maximum price to build that. That would be demo for the old, install the new. Once we get that GMP within our budget, we take that to council to award the contract to Acme, you know, contractors. So that's a good model for that. What's more difficult, if you go traditional design, bid, build, you never really know if you have enough money, because we have a grant that's fixed. So we have to work with a construction manager at risk, because there may be some value engineering to get within our budget. Because an architect can design anything, and then a contractor gives you a price. It's $1 million, I have $800,000. Okay, well, what you asked me to bid on was $1 million. A construction manager will then go into value engineering and try to bring that into the cost of the budget, which is commonly done. And metal buildings like this will be perfect to do that. They'll all be similar. We already have the design for C, so we pretty much think we're going to be in good shape there. It's just, you know, prices have escalated in the last 5 years since that one was built, but that's our
I'm curious,
approach.
You have to have bathrooms on that one? You know, I pushed real hard for the bathrooms on D. I wasn't expecting to see bathrooms on C.
You know, and that's kind of like a planning thing.
Yeah.
So now with building codes, they do require that. So a lot of things that happen over the years, you know, everything's got to be to the current code. So I think it was a building code issue that required that bathroom. So we're anticipating it'll be another requirement, but the beauty of that is the sanitary's already there. It's just a matter of tying in to that, so.
I hate to see the Airpark.
Right.
I'm all for having proper
Right.
restrooms. Don't get
And
me
Mike
wrong.
was talking about flipping them so they're
I
not
just don't know how many we need down there.
Opposite sides.
opposite sides, so the users are not right there on top of each other, they're on different ends of the
Makes sense.
hangar,
Awesome.
so.
So I should tell the people that are in C hangar, no time soon.
It's several months before we get to council.
Yeah.
So I would say by fall, we could be awarding a contract. And then then it's up to us when we want to do it,
Yeah.
you know, so that's another thing, you
That's a
know.
slower schedule than we have been kind of running.
What's the best time of year to do that? What's, you know, for the users, because we have to do the demo, so now, okay, what are we gonna do with these planes? We're gonna do tie downs. So that's where the Barb and her magic comes in, so they've got to handle all these people. You know, our job will be easy, we award the contract, all the other stuff is a burden to the Airpark now.
Yeah.
Summer's probably the best time because we do have several people in that row that go up north, and they're up there from, June till the end of October. So,
Yeah.
May, June.
So Larry,
Yeah, so
Larry
that
Maybe
got
summertime,
one of those out.
for the people that are in there, that would eliminate a couple airplanes being out on hard stands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And see, but just based on these inspections, it's the oldest hangar, and it's the one that really needs to go. There's things there that if we weren't tearing it, redoing it, we would have to rehab it.
Yeah.
So I told Mike, we need to really move this along,
Right.
and get it awarded.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
All righty. Anything else on the director's report?
No, that's really the most important things that I had, unless Mike has something to,
Oh, well, I'm sorry, I thought that was under old business. Hangar C, I was gonna talk to you guys a little bit about the security guard
Oh, okay.
building. We got approval for that grant. We've secured that funding. And we're looking at going to council in September to secure the construction manager at risk.
yeah.
And that was, security is one of those things that we're continuously looking at and trying to update. Back in the beginning of the year in January, we had, FDOT sponsored a Kimberly Horn to come out and do a security assessment. We talked about that in the February meeting that we had.
Right.
And then, so we're gonna have that, we're looking at, a couple years down the road, upgrading the security camera system that we have. And looking at the fencing that we have, upgrading that. Master plan is, I have everything in electronic format. I gotta turn it into the Florida Airports database, get FDOT approval on that, then we'll get the final for the master plan. And that's what's,
Now, the security building, this would be like at the south gate? So
yes, it's gonna
somebody
be,
could be there
it's
for
gonna be,
after hours.
correct.
Yes.
And that's where, right now, where we have the operation for the security aids is they're inside, that's where the camera system's set up.
Yeah.
And then they come out and they do their rounds. We're gonna move everything out to that security guard building to where they're sitting there, and then they're gonna be able to control that access for people, coming onto the AOA,
I see.
so.
And Mike talked about the report, and, Kimberly Horn, they visit all these airports for DOT, and it's not a pass-fail inspection. It's an inspection based on recommendations, new things that come out, so they evaluate. And one thing you never want to do, like an open meeting like this, is tell everybody where all your security problems are. So, that's not the purpose of it. So for new regulations for Homeland Security and stuff, so they identify things that now have changed. And so what you have is not bad or failing, it's outdated. So those are the kind of things that we're looking at now. Cameras, the technology for cameras, just the what do you call
Analog to digital.
yeah, just I can't even think of what it captures, pixels, everything is so new. We have cameras now that are just old, every couple of years your cameras are just like your phone.
And speaking of that security assessment, we were at 2 out of 10. One being the
Resolution,
best you
that's the
could
word I was looking for.
Wow.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, so our
So the
resolution.
assessment was
Yeah,
a
it was a
good
good
assessment.
assessment. That's
Yeah.
good.
You always want to, stay ahead of
Right.
everything.
Yeah,
That's really what
absolutely.
we're trying to do.
Absolutely. David, did you have something you wanted to?
No, I was just curious if we had any cost ideas, what it was going to cost to. If you're talking about a building with air conditioning and all that, you're going to have all that equipment out there.
You talking about the security?
You need me to go over there again?
Oh,
Yeah, if you're talking about the security building, it's got a
we
guard,
gotta-
putting
we
the
gotta-
cameras, it's going to have air conditioning. It's going to be like a building
Yeah.
building,
We-
like air conditioning and.
yeah.
We had a not to exceed price of $75,036.
That's
It's,
pretty cheap.
yeah, in fact, I was gonna bring it, but I couldn't find it. We're buying one we're gonna put a slab in and bring electric and cable to it, and this thing will come on a truck and just dropped into place and hooked up. It's prefab. And it's really nice. It's glass on all sides. It's got a little mini split system. a door, you can open a window that'll open and close. So it's already built and designed specifically for gate entry. So nothing will be constructed other than the slab and the utilities that'll come to it.
And he'll be able to remotely, like, turn off the north gate when
Yeah.
he's there, and then shut the south gate down, go on his rounds. If somebody comes while he's gone, they can call him, he'll come back to the gate, open the gate and let them in.
Awesome.
So that's why I was saying with our, guaranteed maximum price, we've got a contract for $75,036 guaranteed. Nothing more, and we're gonna get this, they already showed us the prototype and stuff, so it's gonna be nice.
Very cool.
Well, I'm just thinking off the top of the head, if you could establish and I'm not saying we should, I'm just thinking off the top of the head, the airport's closed between midnight and 6, and there's no access allowed, then you don't need to have somebody at the gate.
Well, but we have somebody there all night,
Yeah.
and what they do, they sit in the building, the FBO.
Yeah.
So this way, they're more visible, they're right there. They can still be in the FBO if there's nobody there, but there is traffic every night.
Is there?
There is.
Well, yeah, your records show how much come in and out. That's interesting. I've never been out there at 3 in the morning.
Even though it's published and everything that the airport closes at midnight, we do still have people every once in a while that show up at 1 in the morning, and, the guard has to call
Right.
the police aide is what he is. He calls the police and they question the people and
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah, I hear them sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I'm just trying to be asleep at that time. So.
Yeah, well, I live under the thing, so.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Any board members who need to be heard?
I've been hurt enough.
Thank you, though, because I'm not there. I don't know, and neither are the rest of you. Anybody else? Alrighty. Get a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned. We'll see you.